When the Spartan shield wall finally broke, it was not with the roar of an invading army or the fall of a mighty hero, but with something far more simple. An imperceptible crack in the unity that had once held an entire world in fear and admiration. For centuries, the phalanx had been seen as unbreakable, the living fortress of bronze and discipline that shaped legends like Leonidas and carried Sparta's name far beyond the mountains of Laconia. But on one forgotten battlefield, under a blistering sun and a sky filled with dust and dread, the formation that defined an era met the moment it could no longer hold. And the reason is far more complex than most imagine. To understand why that day became one of the most dramatic turning points in ancient warfare, you must first understand what it meant to stand inside a Spartan phalanx. You must imagine the weight of the shield pressed against your neighbor's arm, the heat of the bronze against your cheek, and the unspoken truth that your life depended entirely on the man beside you. One slip, one moment of hesitation could open a gap large enough to swallow an entire line. But what almost no one realizes is that the shield wall was not merely a tactic. It was a philosophy, a worldview, a promise. And on that fateful day, that promise was shattered. Before we continue this remarkable journey into the heart of Spartan warfare, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Your support helps bring more stories like this to life and keeps the past beating strongly in the present. Now, let's return to the battlefield. The world of ancient Greece was carved into mountains, divided by rivalries and bound by fragile alliances that could shift with the winds. Sparta stood as both a pillar of strength and a warning, feared for its relentless military machine and admired for its discipline. But the Greek world was changing. New enemies rose across the sea, old ones grew bold again, and the rigid traditions that once kept Sparta at the center of power were starting to crack under pressure. The land was restless, the politics volatile. The battlefield was becoming a proving ground for new ideas, and Sparta was beginning to look like a relic in a world that demanded adaptation. For generations, young Spartan boys were shaped into soldiers before they even understood the meaning of war. Among them was a young hoplite named Demarion, born of a long line of warriors and raised with the certainty that the shield wall was perfection itself. There were stories saying he would stand taller than his father, that his grip on the spear was already steady at 10 years old. But he carried something that troubled him, an unusual curiosity, a willingness to question orders silently, even if he obeyed them without hesitation. In the dim torchlight of the barracks, he once whispered to an older soldier, "What happens if the wall breaks?" The veteran stared at him, eyes cold, and answered, "It doesn't. If it breaks, we break." Those words would return years later, carved deep into the memory of a man who would live to see the impossible. As tensions escalated in Greece, Sparta found itself facing an enemy unlike the Persian Empire's hordes or the chaotic armies of rival city-states. This enemy was precise, strategic, and patient. They studied the phalanx, watching its strengths and its weaknesses. They understood that victory wouldn't come through brute force, but by manipulating the one thing Spartans relied upon above all else: unity. The battlefield was chosen carefully, a place where dust rose thick as fog and the sun burned mercilessly, draining strength long before blood was spilled. And hidden in the enemy ranks was a new formation, one designed to strike where no Spartan expected. Sparta marched with confidence, their shields polished, their spears glinting like a river of iron. Everything about the scene felt familiar, almost ceremonial. But what Demarion didn't know, what no Spartan knew, was that they were walking into a strategy crafted specifically to unravel the phalanx from within. The enemy advanced not as one massive wave, but in calculated clusters, striking at angles, testing the lines, probing for the smallest sign of imbalance. A whisper of doubt, a shift in weight, a momentary break in rhythm. And slowly, too slowly for the Spartans to notice, pressure began to build in the left wing. The clash began with the thunder of shields meeting shields, the screech of bronze scraping bronze, and the ground trembling beneath thousands of feet. Demarion's shoulder burned from the weight of the shield pressing into his arm. Sweat poured into his eyes, but the line held, inching forward step by brutal step. Then came the moment no Spartan expected. The enemy changed direction. Instead of confronting the center, they pivoted sharply, striking the left flank with a speed that defied the rigid predictability of classical warfare. The carefully balanced wall faltered. A single hoplite stumbled, only for a heartbeat, but it was enough. A spear darted through the opening, followed by another and another. The gap widened. Demarion heard the sound first, a cracking echo, like a tree splitting under a storm. Then the shield beside him slipped. The phalanx was breaking. Panic did not explode all at once. It crept in like a poison. Every man struggled to tighten the formation, to restore the perfect geometry drilled into them since childhood. But the enemy kept turning, shifting, attacking from angles that made the Spartans feel slow, rigid, outdated. The line collapsed inward. The once impenetrable shield wall fractured like clay. For the first time in generations, Spartans were forced into individual combat, robbed of the unity that defined them. Dust filled the air until the battlefield became a blur of shadows and silhouettes. Cries of orders were swallowed by chaos. Demarion fought desperately, shield half raised, searching for his brothers in the storm of bodies. And in that moment, the truth became painfully clear. The phalanx was not destroyed by superior strength. It was undone by adaptation. When the sun finally sank and the dust settled, the field was silent. Sparta had survived the battle, but something far greater had been lost. The invincibility of the shield wall, the myth that had shaped centuries, was shattered. Demarion walked among the fallen, realizing that the world he had been trained for no longer existed. The enemy had found the flaw Sparta refused to see: rigidity in a world that demanded evolution. In the years that followed, the legacy of that broken wall spread across Greece. City-states re-examined their tactics. Generals studied the collapse with ruthless precision. Some historians today argue that this moment marked the beginning of the end for Spartan dominance. Others believe it was a necessary lesson, proving that even the greatest powers must adapt or fade into the shadows of history. But all agree on one thing: when the Spartan shield wall broke, a chapter of the ancient world came to a close.